Why are you mirroring me?
That's a sign that I like you. Like, if I mirror your habits unconsciously, it means that I like you.
That's beautiful.
Also, you're doing it right now. I don't know if it works for men, but if I position my feet to face you, that's a sign that I like you. Like all humans. It's just like a natural language sign.
Has it always been like this among humans?
Yeah, it's like psychology of
mirroring.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that happening with like kids and parents too?
Oh yeah, when we saw that cute kid that was like dressed in Patagonia and he looked like he was going to the office and he was like 13. That's definitely like, I love my dad.
That's a big admiration.
I want to be my dad.
He's so cool, yeah.
Yeah, he wanted to be cool, right?
I also did that actually when I was that age.
What did you dress like?
My dad, I would wear my dad's button down with sweater on top.
That's really dorky. I'm glad I missed that era.
Yeah, I think you did. Actually, you saw me wearing button down with sweater in the beginning of our dating, but that went away.
I have never liked a guy in a sweater. I just don't like the look of it. It's just not my thing. I don't know.
V-neck sweater or just any sweater?
Like the material on a guy just feels weird to me. I don't know why.
It's very picky. It's a lot of guys.
I know. Sweatshirts are fine. It's like specifically a tight sweater that I'm just like, not my thing.
Tight anything is not my thing either.
Yeah. But even if it's like a baggy sweater, like maybe there's a few that like if it's like cool and designer, like in a way that is like indie or something, maybe. But like for the most part, it just feels weird to see guys wearing sweaters.
Yeah. My pet peeve is jackets with the communist pockets.
Yeah, you hate that. Also, I had like cut off pants that were like below the knee but before you reach the ground, and you were just like, this is the worst thing to ever see like you in. I think that reminds me of like boomer moms wear a lot of those clothes. Yeah, but you also were like, that's very communist.
For sure.
I think when I was a teenager, I wore like those green army jackets that were kind of like hippie and communist. You probably wouldn't have liked that era.
Well, we lived through that era, both of us. Mm-hmm. It's still happening to some extent.
Yeah, people still dress like. I think that kind of went away. Like, I don't see a lot of people that work in the city dressing like plain beige colors that have those pockets that you're talking about. I haven't seen that.
No, SF last year did stop the thrift store trend and communist trend in clothing.
I still see people doing thrift store trend.
Sure. But I still think for the past year, I've seen a lot of people wearing new clothes in SF, which is new. It's coming back. Fashion is coming back. Buying new stuff is coming back. Money is coming back.
Money is coming back. That reminds me of like, literally, we went to the groceries again today, and I got 2 meals, and it was cheaper.
Yeah.
Groceries are cheaper everywhere.
This is interesting because I saw on Twitter someone in New Jersey said the groceries are really expensive.
I wouldn't trust that.
I wouldn't trust that because she was on the other side as well.
Well, do you think they wouldn't trust me for saying the groceries are cheaper? I mean, I could like prove it. I could probably get like our receipts from online and see what we bought. And then...
Yeah, I am interested to know if the discounts, you got it on discount, let's say it like that, okay? So you went to grocery store, your regular items has been, which I have been getting those on discount as well, but I was ordering them online.
Still counts as cheaper groceries because we buy groceries all the time and it's never on sale, and now it's on sale. Like, I think that's their way of integrating the new prices is like, okay, let's just make things discounted, and then we'll just bring the price down. It's I believe in that theory. Yeah,
I
think that's happening. I think I don't know, maybe it's not every state. Maybe if they're in New Jersey, it's different. But I think for sure, I have never paid less at Whole Foods. And I bought alcohol too, which normally alcohol is like heavily taxed and really expensive. And that was like, didn't even make a dent.
I think I wouldn't consider alcohol because to me, because people are not drinking as much, maybe the alcohol companies are just decreasing the price so they can sell.
Also, it's the holidays, so they're like, oh, I want to sell more alcohol this holiday. Yeah, I don't know.
But the fresh stuff, like fresh meat.
But still, yeah. Like, I also went and I got like a whole chicken, and it was $2 off on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
That's new. Yeah. I don't know.
Economy is really fascinating because if you start from the top of the chain, some way of signaling that the economy is shifting towards this direction, the suppliers do not want to lose business. So they would adapt.
Yeah.
And if it's towards the positive direction, well, good for the consumer as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And these are the essentials, and we want to take care of the essentials.
Yeah, it's like the basic items like protein, vegetables, stuff like that is like they're bringing that down to the core.
Kitchen table items.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think also they're bringing processed food down and making it cheaper because it's not selling. I don't think a lot of people are eating processed food anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big movement around that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are paying a lot of money on things like Ozempic.
Yeah.
They don't want to burn that money. Ozempic is around like 1,000 every time that you use it. Like, I don't know. Like, I've heard it.
Yeah, so it's like
that.
When you're using that, I heard that it actually changes your brain chemistry. So you don't want those things as much anymore. So it's like a natural evolution of getting it out of your system to not want it anymore, which honestly, I do believe once you stop eating something too, just naturally, you won't crave it as much. So
that's 100% true.
If you like quit sugar or processed food, if you get over that barrier, you just kind of like stop wanting it.
Which brings up this, argument that eating disorder is a mental disorder.
For sure, yeah.
You know?
Well, eating disorders are mostly caused by like someone wanting to control something that they can't in their life, so they control their food intake. Mm-hmm. That's like the core of like the psychological issue. Yeah. It's same with binge eating. It's the same thing, like feeling like you want to just like release yourself so much that they're different, but like the habit is kind of like rooted in trying to control something in your life.
Yeah, and that's people are becoming more aware, self-conscious of controlling themselves, because I think things are not as crazy as it used to be socially, economically. Like, I think there's a lot of stability happening.
Yeah.
And it's helping people to get rid of their chronic problems.
I think also like just generally like the pandemic gave people a lot of excuses to just let go completely, because if you're not constantly interacting with people, you don't really have that checks and balance. Social peer pressure is like really important, because if you have peer pressure, you generally will try to impress the people around you. But if you don't have that constant pressure, you might just like let loose and let things go. And I think society like got to the point where we let so much go that there needed to be like a huge shift towards getting healthy.
Yeah, wasn't that a problem for us?
Yeah.
During the pandemic, that our peers and friends were the people who were consuming Trader Joe's food. And even though we were not really in need of Trader Joe's food, we would consume them, we would get them, so we can contribute to the conversations and the feeling that they would talk about when you would gather. And it, like, I remember there was a conversation I was having with my friends, and in the middle of a conversation they were talking about Trader Joe's, and I was like, I'm so happy that I finally have like my home near the farmer's market.
Oh.
And it suddenly turned them against me that like, we don't talk about that. Like, we're talking about Trader Joe's. And I was just like, whoa. Okay, so like, I guess like me saying that I live near a farmer's market and I can get stuff from farmer's market is showing that I'm wealthy for some reason, and that's
Yeah.
a very interesting thing because I focus on the healthy side of the farmers market, not necessarily I'm buying expensive food. And it was a turnoff, and I'm glad that this culture has changed.
That's like dead now. Like I feel like, well, okay, so that's a good question because I'm wondering, I know that like Brian Johnson is like kind of leading this like health kick around the world, but I think that for a long time there was a lot of young people that were like, we want to eat healthy food. We don't want to eat like the processed food. Like we want to feel healthy. We want to look healthy. We want to work out, be conscious, and eat good food. And just general society just started saying that, and then like we kind of changed the market naturally. Or do you think that like the market changed and then we are adapting to it, or is it like a symbiotic relationship? Like what do you think happened there? Like how did we get healthy?
Well,
Or get towards wanting to be healthy? Also Ozempic came out, so it's like what do you think the process was?
okay, you brought up two things.
Yeah.
Brian Johnson is completely in a different trajectory than Ozempic, okay?
But they're all in the same sphere of like trying to I wouldn't consider Ozempic getting healthy, but it's like losing weight, feeling better, feeling more conscious, feeling healthy.
I think the most simple explanation is Americans woke up to their health crisis and they're taking action, which is a beautiful, positive thing. We have RFK as the, health minister or like secretary of health.
Yeah.
You call it in the United States. And I think his whole campaign was around health, environmental and food.
But I think he's coming like way late into the game of being healthy. Like I feel like there was a lot of players trying to get America healthy for a long time that it just naturally started happening. Like that's it like there, I don't understand why just all of a sudden a bunch of people were just like, we're getting healthy.
Well,
okay, like how did that happen?
Brian Johnson's trajectory got amplified and much got a spotlight when we introduced AI and LLMs, because we suddenly expanded the lifespan of humans by introducing a subject that we were all like for the past century we were looking forward to this.
Yeah.
And it happened, and when it happened, everyone was just like, okay, we know that we're gonna live way more than 100 now we gotta be healthy.
Because you want to have quality of life when you get that old.
You want to you want to experience this crazy boom that is happening, and you want to see where it's going. You don't want to die fast, because we just started the industrial revolution, and imagine when it started in 1800s and 1850. Up until the internet, we really didn't understand the effects of the industrial revolution in the society, and that was like 150 years down the line.
Whoa. Okay, so like I've never thought of this before, but it's basically like I'm in my 20s, late 20s, and if I want to experience like going to the moon or going to Mars, like in a mass scale of people, and I want to be alive for that, like maybe I want to be like 100 or 120.
Well, I don't think
I've
you
told
can.
you, like I want to live to be 120. I think it's possible, but like,
For sure.
is it kind of like that amount of technology that like people would want to experience? Or
I think it's the exciting things on Earth right now.
Okay.
Our generation cannot think about going to Mars and going to Moon, because that requires a lot of healthiness. America is not healthy, and people of the Earth need to be way more healthy mentally and physically.
so in 100 years, you think that's still not possible?
Well, I think people want to stay alive more just to experience a better life on Earth. That's for
Okay.
just on Earth.
So, but that's interesting because like my grandma's been alive almost 100 years, and she experienced like the iPhone coming out. And it was not like, oh, wow, this is so amazing. This is so cool. It was like, what is this thing that I have to use now? Like, why do I have to learn how this works? Like, I don't want to touch this. I want to keep my landline, you know? And she adapted. She's like 20 years later, she's using it. She's on Facebook. She like is, you know, saying happy birthday to you and like seeing all of your videos. And it's like really cute. So maybe she's enjoying and appreciating it now, but I just find it really hard to believe that like when you're that age and you're that old, like living on this earth is like still exciting like that. Do you think?
I would say that it depends on the kind of technology. So
okay. So what do you think is going to be that technology?
I think the entertainment that we will get out of AI is going to be like the book Infinite Jest, which is the ultimate movie of all times that you will eventually, it's so pleasant, it's so good that you would want to give up your pinky to watch it one more time.
Oh no.
Okay. So
I want to keep my pinkies.
Yeah.
That's like WALL-E when they're just like staring at their screens and they're all fat and just like looking like up and they just don't do anything else but just look at their screen.
I don't like WALL-E. It's
that was very dystopian.
It's very dystopian, but I liked WALL-E when I was watching it as a kid, but obviously as a kid you don't understand it.
Yeah.
What I'm mostly excited about is the entertainment that you will get personalized to you. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, yeah, that would be really cool. So it's like you kind of build out your AI and it learns to how to best entertain you.
It understands what you like.
Yeah.
So for example, you personally are a fan of Vampire Diaries.
Okay.
It will create a version of Vampire Diaries that there's no flaw for
Vampire
Chloe.
Diaries in San Francisco in 2024. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Anything that Chloe wants. And
instead of fighting like werewolves, we're fighting communists.
Interesting. Well, by that time, it's very...
I would love to watch that. I would be like immersed, like, whoa.
Yeah. I have experienced videos like that. I have experienced movies and videos like that.
In what sense?
In a sense that I would watch it on repeat over and over.
Yeah, like when you're a kid and there's something. I have like a few shows that are just like my comfort, repeats.
Yeah.
But there was also there was something on Netflix like a really long time ago. I think it was like Black Mirror, but they made it a movie and it was kind of like a book in the sense that, those books where you could like read something and then choose what chapter you want to go to next or like what path you want the person, the main character in the book to go towards. It was like that, but it was interactive on a movie scale. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was so cool. So like if we can gamify entertainment like that, mm-hmm. that would just like be a game changer. Like imagine this podcast and we like create multiple scenarios of this podcast.
Yeah, imagine this podcast and the viewer can pause and ask a chatbot mm-hmm. to, can you like get Chloe to expand on her Vampire Diaries fantasy of 2024 in San Francisco fighting like the communists. So like something like that would be extremely like entertaining.
Yeah. She also has to fight the Roman Empire like coming back and taking over.
Yeah, but at the same time I think one of the really cool things about that scenario is in order for that LLM to create that possible narrative, it has to know about who you are mm-hmm. and then create that based on who you are, not based on some junk that LLM thinks that Chloe would want to see. So it requires some contextual background, mm-hmm. which we already see the rise of that happening with AI variables. Mm-hmm. That you're carrying something 24/7 that is recording your voice and the people that you talk to. And later on, we will have cameras in our rooms I mean, I know people are like, oh, surveillance and dystopia, and like, no, I think like,
well, we were afraid of that until Trump became president, and now we're like, oh, okay, so we can use tech freely.
well, yeah, I mean,
I don't think like under any kind of like his reign, we're gonna experience like surveillance or like censorship like that.
not to the extent that people can visibly see it.
Yeah, because it's like we were on a trajectory of like censorship and heavy surveillance. We were seeing, Y Combinator come out with all of these like tools that were for like people detecting theft and all of this stuff that we were like, if the government gets a hold of these, like they can really cause a lot of damage for people. Like sometimes I would think there's like a light post outside our window that has a little bulb on it. And I would not be surprised if that bulb was like recording the home conversations in like a radius. Like I was that paranoid. And I know that's probably crazy in a conspiracy theory, but
absolutely
I'm
not.
like,
We
I don't
are-
feel that anymore. I'm like,
Yeah.
anything that exists like that is going to be fucking gone. Like,
Yeah. I mean, even if it's going to go,
yeah.
they will not dare to use it against people.
Yeah, at least for 4 years. I
Yeah.
mean, I know that my Waymo conversations are going to be blasted someday, and people are going to hate me for like anything that I said.
I don't think so. I think if that happens, if that ever happens,
We like built Melo in Waymo though. Like,
yeah, I know. We have built Melo in Waymo. For sure.
like
Deep
Waymo, can I have like the record of when we thought of this idea? Like, can you go back and like give me that like little moment of?
That's so. If only things were that
Yeah.
transparent.
But I consider my grandma. I know it's been a while since we talked about this.
So with that scenario, I can understand like your point of your grandma not being excited about iPhone. So why would we get excited about something like LLMs?
And it's not like I don't think it's the technology. I think it's like the way that your brain thinks about things. Like you're just kind of like, you can't appreciate it to the extent that a young person can appreciate it. And it's not built for you. So you lose interest and you feel insufficient compared to other people. Like my grandma is probably one of the few like 97-year-olds that can have a fluent conversation and understand everything that you're saying, and like literally just like she's mentally and physically one of the most healthiest people on this planet. Like I genuinely believe that. And she's not excited about those kinds of technologies. She's more excited about connecting with humans.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my question is like, if I'm like
that's a good
excited about like tech in the sense that it's happening now, maybe my brain will get stuck in this form of tech. And when a new form of tech like AGI comes out and I'm too old to appreciate it, it's like, I'll use it eventually, but it's not going to be like, I don't think I'll live for that, Maybe you will because you're just evergreen with your tech appreciation.
You're making several great points. And I think I am curious to know why if that's the case, which is very plausible, why there's a general consensus around staying alive for that long to see the AGI. And the AGI is the metaphor for seeing, okay, like what happens when we have a system that has access to everything at all times and understands you. And you don't know what's going to happen with that, because I don't think your grandma experienced the AGI. And I don't think if the AGI is going to happen over a night, I do not believe in that. Although we got ChatGPT over a night.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's not forget about that. Like, as someone who studied tech, studied engineering, was in tech, I knew, and I was a AI builder. I knew like these systems are being developed. I knew that it's not far away from us.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know it's going to happen overnight like that and change everything, like create a huge chaos overnight. Like maybe if it was not because of the AGI possibility or like just AI coming out, we would have wanted Trump to come back again. Because in 2022, there was no conversation around him coming back.
Interesting.
So,
but that's because he was censored. Like, I didn't even know he was running because it didn't show me anywhere that he was running.
Maybe, yes. Maybe you're correct. Maybe you're right about that, you know? But maybe he wouldn't get the spotlight or he wouldn't get someone like Elon backing him if it was not because of the possibility of AGI and Elon wanted to control the possibility of holding the AGI. And more importantly, we want in America to AGI be in the hands of Americans.
Do you remember there was a paper that we were reading like a long time ago that someone who was working on AGI and the thought around AGI was talking about like we need to come up with AGI as Americans before China does. And that could have been the prompt that Trump needs to get involved in because he would support that work to get AGI as fast as possible, because if another country has AGI before us, then we're just kind of like doomed, you know?
Yeah, I think it was a podcast.
No, he wrote a like research paper. I don't remember. I think he was like Leonardo or something. I don't remember.
Oh, you're talking about Leopold?
Leopold, yeah. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But that was like a really good... I think he was on a podcast and then I read the paper, but it was a really good take. But
yeah, his paper was very intense. He was basically talking about like, we don't want AGI in the hands of wrong people. So rightfully so. We don't want that. Yeah, I totally believe in that movement, wanting someone who believes in nationalism rather than global village.
Yeah, so I think that might be why Trump and Elon banded together and got into this game. But all of the
men who cared about tech banded together.
And young men, I think, are also...
YMCA song.
That just like flashed of like you dancing around the house like why? I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I'm not on that side of TikTok.
Yeah, you totally did not catch the
I had no idea until I saw literally, I think like at Trump's party they played the song and then I was like, okay, so this is like their anthem.
That used to be
so
his
80s like.
Oh my god, I know. That's it's totally Trump. It's 80s, it's New York.
Yeah.
And
this world is wild. I'm so excited for this next like century. I'm just like really excited.
Yeah. Lots of great things are rising.
Maybe it's not next century. We're still in this century, but my next 100 years of being alive, I'm officially excited about.
That is such a great, that is such a great statement to make, honestly. I love the confidence you had in that. And I totally 100% believe you're going to make it.
Chloelevalley will be alive at 120. She will. Because
no, you will. Absolutely.
My grandparents have lived to be 100 almost, all of them. And so there's no way.
Almost 70 and
still not grandparents.
looking great, looking like a 50-year-old, honestly, or even less, like looking 20 years younger than their age.
You know what it is? All of my family on my dad's side mixed their genes with a bunch of white people. Yeah. So they got stronger.
That makes sense.
Like,
yeah, you have like...
I'm just like such a mutt.
Yeah, you have like, okay, German.
Yeah.
Scandinavian.
Well, that's not on my... Well, there might be a little bit of German on my grandfather's side, but it's on my dad's side. It's like British, French, and Irish. Mm-hmm. My mom's side is Swedish, a lot of German, a little bit of Norwegian, and some Polish, I think, or some kind of like Eastern European. So all of those together are making some pretty strong genes.
Yeah, you're like...
And then our kid, like, oh my God.
I know.
It's going to be like unstoppable.
The kids are going to be unstoppable. Yeah. All of them.
Anyway, that was a detour.
But Our kids are definitely going to experience the post AGI world, in my opinion.
I think our kids will be involved in like going to space.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm gonna build a foundation for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I had a dream of robotics.
Mm-hmm.
I had a dream of space exploration, and I had basically a dream of building a social media.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on the social media. We are building the best social media on planet ever existed, and
Melo.
we are getting very good amount of traction, and we're just gonna raise our first round, first pre-seed round.
Shout out to,
and that's gonna be the stepping stone to shout out to who, baby?
I was just gonna say, I'm not gonna mention it yet.
Yeah, we are having some conversation.
We're in some talks with some VCs, so pretty cool that finally people are gonna pay us for our work. Until you pay us for our work. But
yes, until
we got to build the platform out more,
and we give to people.
Yes,
we want to make people rich through Melo.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first ever social media platform that you're gonna get rich using it. It's not a follower game; it's a money game.
Woo!
Maximizing your outcome. The hour that you spend, the time that you spend building it, you're gonna get paid for it.
Yeah, I think there was a podcaster that said it right. Basically, what is going to happen is there's going to be a bunch of people making apps and technology and a bunch of people making podcasts, and they're all going to work together and sell each other's content and make each other rich. That's the new economy. And Melo will be the host of those podcasters and other conversational videos.
Yep.
And even then, we probably will implement a lot of AI tools of like a lot of other companies that will be a part of Melo. So like the idea that you were just talking about with like having a podcast and someone changes the podcast, like I think we would bring companies on to do stuff like that with Melo.
Yeah, when the time is right.
When it becomes popular.
We care about, the first thing that right now we care about is human connection, genuine human connection, and also
creativity and free speech.
Creativity, free speech, capitalism, and we want people to live their life however they want, and if they make money through their like videos, they are going to make the most amount of money from any social media using Melo.
Yes,
because
that's our promise.
That's the promise. And we are going to change the world for our generation with that mentality. I totally believe in myself, and I totally believe in you as well, because we both want the right thing for the people. Mm-hmm. The people matter.
People matter. I like that. Not people matter. People making money matters.
Yeah, we all should make money. We all should be rich. Make the pie bigger.
Make the pie bigger. Democratize the money. Yeah.
Okay, that was a little bit
huge detour. Okay, you don't want me to bring democracy into it. I get it.
No. I don't.
Republicize.
Oh my god.
Like a republic.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is a good segue. But do you want to say anything else about our assumptions about why people got healthy? Because I don't really think that that's the reason. Being honest, like I think that's like a very small amount of the population, mostly male, that is like, oh, let's get healthy so we can see AGI. Like I'm pretty sure like the general population on this planet does not think about AGI on a daily basis. I think in general, people want to get healthy to live longer, to enjoy life, and to not feel like decrepit when they're old. And healthcare systems are really expensive, so they need to be healthy to not have to pay so much like to fix their body. Like I think generally just people got more intelligent about what's going on with their body and like the health systems. There was a lot of documentaries, like people just learned a lot, and they're like, okay, yeah, we're not doing this. The only way to enjoy life and stay healthy is literally to like exercise, eat healthy, and like sleep a good amount of time. Like I think all of those just became like normalized.
Yeah, absolutely 100% everything that you say is true. What do you think was the catalyzer?
I think actually that a lot of people have way more time on their hands.
So they can actually take care of their health.
Yeah, like maybe before
They can
everyone
cook
was doing
food
busy
from
work.
scratch.
I think AI is definitely a
They can work
huge
out.
indicator of that. So like AI gave people a lot more time, and so they put that time into themselves.
Yeah.
And then that time into themselves is making them more money. So then they keep going with that route.
That's very interesting. I do believe that's true too.
I think there's something really, really big to that. And I want to bring this up. I started waking up earlier, like 6:50 a.m. You started waking up before then. You started the trend. You started waking up at 5 a.m. And I have seen more opportunities in a financial sense in just the past 2 weeks than I have in like a long time. Could be related to the election, totally. Maybe this is unrelated, but could also be related to like me getting up early.
I think, yeah, getting up early, you balance your circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
And your body is more productive. You have more time in your hands.
Way more energy.
Yeah,
Like because
less
Pilates
sluggish.
gives you energy, and then you just like can go throughout the day without just like sleeping and
Yeah.
being sluggish.
Yeah. And you also start your day with doing Pilates, which is a great way of living life. And I also have observed this. When you wake up early, you don't stay in bed doom scrolling until like 3-4 a.m., which when you were not waking up early, that was exactly the case. So
Yeah.
I would go to bed around 11, and I usually sleep within the first or the second hour of being in bed. But then you cannot fall asleep, and you continue scrolling on your social media, and then you feel bad about like staying up because you want to go to sleep
And
early
it
as
creates
well.
a bad habit because then you have to sleep in to catch up on sleep, and then you're sluggish the next day.
Yeah, so it's like
I think in a few years people are just gonna wake up and be like, why the fuck were we doing all of that? Like, why did we think that living life was that like unimportant to just be like that, you know?
It doesn't make any sense, does it?
No, I think like the confusion era is just like gone. I think it's done, but it could just be us. Like we just figured it out. We got the formula. There was probably people earlier.
I think one of the things that is we genuinely understood social media, because for the first decade, social media was such a fascinating thing that it was like ever evolving, and it was becoming much more appealing because people put more information, more refined information, curation games would get better. And then we ended up like with TikTok, which is like an unending cycle of videos. And then you have those videos and you're learning from them. You're just not just watching. Like there's a lot that you learn.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I really learned from social media was you have the control over your brain, how your brain activities that your brain is processing, or like the information that your brain is processing.
I agree with that, but I also like think during the beginning of when we started using TikTok, like 2019, 2020, it was really exciting because there was a lot of people using it and sharing things about their life that you normally wouldn't learn. And so that stimulated your brain a lot because you were gaining social knowledge at a time that people couldn't, like it was illegal to be social. Okay. So after that, like we just scrolled on TikTok and like that social glue kind of just like fell off a little bit. There's still some really exciting content on TikTok, but it's like, it doesn't have the same amount of energy that it had in those days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
I think that's really important, is like the energy, and we're getting that energy back. And I think most of it is in podcasting.
Most of it is in long form video now, because we understood that like, okay, like, yeah, you can create, I create a lot of TikToks and Instagram stories for expressing my short thoughts. But then we've been doing this for the past year because there's no better way of putting your life out there than talking about your thought process and the things that you've been experiencing for the past whatever period.
Yeah.
We are getting very smart. It's getting really exciting for people to express themselves online. It's inevitable. My mom was talking about she's gonna start putting her paintings on her Instagram.
Your mom's paintings are like so beautiful. Your mom's like a professional painter.
I mean, my mom is I would call her an artist.
Yeah.
Because like she's very fast in learning an art, whatever she wants, and she's been doing it since I remember. She would do it with so many different kinds. So like people like her that have been doing it for a long time finally are catching up to the point that I think this should be shared, and this will be shared. So we are having more times at our disposal, and we are going to use that to our advantage and express who we are. Sooner or later, everyone will start expressing themselves on social media.
Yeah, so it's like almost like this web is, we used to be local, but that localness makes it harder to be exactly who you are because there's not as many people to also replicate who you are. But now you could find like other people that you like more with like a larger audience. It's really hard for me to just like, this is probably a really easy way to explain it, but basically like when the pool is bigger, you can find deeper connections.
For sure.
You know?
And that's, we're curating that pool now. Initially, it was just everyone at all times.
Yeah.
Like I had to suffer, I still do when I go on Twitter, suffer watching a lot of people giving their opinion about something that will never help me, but I came across and
is never gonna relate to you in any sense. Like,
yeah. That's why it's really important to introduce new systems, that those systems will also bridge the current situation to the next. It's a continuous growth.
Do you prefer, because I know I prefer like social knowledge to book knowledge, but do you have a preference?
Well, laws of physics are not something that are social knowledge. So I do prefer books when it comes to hardcore science.
Okay.
Something that, okay, this was the day that dinosaurs went extinct, and a social opinion on that doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, like,
but
I see what you mean.
That's
not what I mean by social intelligence, though.
But how am I going to apply what happened to dinosaurs, and like why did they go extinct, and how long did they reign, and all of those information into my current situation is dependent on how many people I see outside and how which period of dinosaur like reign humans are at right now, or application of laws of physics in our real life, in our social experiences with other people. So when it comes to science, I am a textbook person because 2 + 2 is always 4. But in social science, science, I don't like to call it social science. In social settings, in social knowledge, we never have 2 + 2 = 4 at all times. Sometimes it's lower, sometimes it's higher.
Okay, so you're like, if there's anything that is an absolute fact, you want to see it as a fact in a book? Is that what you mean?
And consistently see that fact.
Throughout
all of the books.
So you would want the world to be built on like those facts and just keep adding up to those facts to the point that, which is what we do kind of do that in the world.
Well, it's not that I want, it's how the universe wants things to go.
Yeah.
I want that to be applied because if you follow the rule of physics, you're going to have a really harmonious life with the universe. The people who didn't believe in Earth is round obviously did a lot of harm to other humans and a lot of other things. Okay, so as long as we understand what's going to happen, like as long as we understand in a few billion years from now, sun is going to run out of the fuel and it's going to explode, and after the explosion it's going to expand to the orbit of the earth, and then solar system is not going to exist anymore and earth is not going to exist anymore, and we therefore as human beings have a couple of billions of years to, which is a long span. If we don't go extinct and we're still alive by that day, it is going to be the end of earth. And we have to right now start thinking about multi-planetary explorations, because we need to go to Mars, we need to go from Mars, we need to go outside of the solar system, we need to find other habitable planets, and then we need to develop the technology and all of the things that can take us to other galaxies and other planets in order to stay alive. Otherwise, that's the rule of the universe and we are going to go extinct. So that's very important, because then the collective effort of human beings will revolve around, okay, not a short-term problem that we are facing with social issues, not a term problem that we are experiencing with global warming, but the ultimate global warming, the ultimate destruction of the earth.
Like also all of the people tracking like the rise of like the sea level or the temperature, like all of the numbers that are rising, to people that are tracking that, you know.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, I've never been in a research background in that sense, like in a science world, but I'm wondering like if social intelligence is like the layer of that, because all of the people who do all of that research, they still have to tell people about it. And they used to tell people through books, research papers, they still do. Now they're like using probably LLMs in conjunction with their research to go further, but they're still publishing it. I think in general, like, it's probably way more effective for that person to now go on a podcast and talk about their findings and throw it into the universe.
Like Huberman.
Yeah, like Huberman, exactly. And then he's creating like all of these belief systems. Like, he's probably a big part of why America is getting healthy.
For sure.
You know, like he set the foundation. And that social knowledge, if you have a little bit of Huberman, you have a little bit of, you know, Lex for politics, you have like all of these different people, that social knowledge creates a collective knowledge that it's like the second layer of books, you know?
Yeah. I think
book knowledge.
there are two sectors of scientific work. One is discovering new science, and the second one is expanding on current discovered science.
Oh,
okay?
Really?
Yeah.
So which one would Huberman be in?
He is expanding on the current discoveries while he is probably micro-dosing on the new information.
Microdosing.
So
okay.
Literally and figuratively. So I think in that sense, there's a lot of people writing books about their takes on science, which is already discovered. There's a new science, which there's an AGI game towards that. I've been throwing the term AGI during this podcast a lot because I feel like it's just somehow relevant to all of the things that we're talking about by accident. But
there's a new trend that probably in a few months I'll catch up to that you were already a part of.
Well, like I'm not a believer that we're going to experience AGI anytime soon. And I am not a believer that AGI will happen overnight. But I think one of the things that is a metric to AGI is discovering new science, unfound science, the things that, like, for example, there is a mathematical equation that a few days ago, people who were working at XAI were talking about that. Grok 3 was able to solve that. And I don't know if that was a bait or that was actually something that happened internally. And if that actually happens, that might indicate that we're closer to something that is called AGI, but I don't know. I don't really care about those kind of rumors. But if that happens in any sense in the future, in any context, it's going to help us to be multiplanetary for sure.
Wow.
It's gonna help us to be a better civilization, and we need new science. And since a long time ago, like I would say, like maybe Einstein's relativity and a little bit after that, like the string theory, are one of the last living breakthroughs of science that we have, and we haven't had it since like probably that era. So we are in a drought season, and we are trying to expand our knowledge on the universe scientifically. And if LLMs or like AI can help us achieve that, that's the newfound discovery of science, versus a lot of people are using LLMs right now to consolidate their information about what they're finding right now, like genetics is moving so fast with LLMs that I feel like it's just crazy how much we can learn about people. We are using LLMs to identify cancerous cells in a human body way before doctors can recognize it. So there's a lot of things that is happening right now. But I think that's the two different sectors that I am seeing within the scientific world.
So like LLMs have been fed all of the information that we have so far, or they are still being fed, and we will reach that limit. And if we don't have new discoveries, we can't reach AGI. So we need kind of like the next enlightenment period of all of the different, physicists and scientists and people coming up to understand our world again. Is that what is left to discover?
Well, I think LLMs do not understand math that well. Like, this is what we have experienced as well. You cannot rely on LLMs to give you numbers that are consistently right.
Okay.
They always throw something off. Okay, so they're not really good at math yet. We have to make them be good at math first. That's the first thing. The second thing is they have to understand gravity. Meaning, if I know as a human what it feels like to lift this up and experience the gravity, but LLMs don't have physical bodies, so they don't really understand what's the definition of living in this world and the reality of the world. So there's a lot that they have to learn before they can go forward. But regardless, I think it will happen, because it's like micro interactions that you will make LLMs to have with each other that will create that neural net that eventually will understand what's going on. That will be the point. Too scientific, this conversation in general.
I'm getting a little bit lost.
I can.
You need to have this conversation with another scientist or mathematician.
But I think if we revolve our understanding around evolution and the future of basically the rules of universe, we will be much happier as human beings. Our societies will be much more functional. That would be
like a utopia.
Yeah, very similar, very close.
Yeah, if everyone just operates under the assumptions that are proven true, and then we keep exploring new things. Yeah,
I really like when Elon keeps saying physics are the law, the rest is recommendations.
You live off of that philosophy.
100%.
Very much. Yeah.
I do believe that there was a lot of law in my country that were recommendations, and in this country as well, that are not good recommendations. We can change them. We can totally change them.
I think they're changing naturally. Also, I mean, LLMs are basically they're the new rule of law.
For sure.
I don't think anyone will listen to the government as much as the LLM that they're asking for their homework help, Yeah. That's just going to be the new source of how to do things, the information that it gives you. And maybe that's not going to be like 100% right. And we're all going to go in towards this echo chamber of like how you're supposed to do something. Or maybe it's going to be something that we get smarter and we start learning in a new way because we don't have to worry about the old way of doing things. Like that's just solved.
Yeah.
You know?
That will be beautiful. That is happening. I think we are changing a lot of laws in this country, everywhere in the world, that a lot of people are not happy about the changes. They're rebelling against those changes. They say we want to go back to those like laws that we used to have.
But why? Like they can't keep up.
They didn't keep up, or they will come to the realization of why the change happened.
Oh, so they're like, well, that's like if you get your information from something that's behind, you're not going to be able to keep up, right? So they're just like, if they cut the source of information that is wrong and they start moving towards the source of information that is right, they'll keep up.
I think it's the evolution more than anything.
Okay. So it's like age, or
it's
like a lot of different things.
It's the age, it's the year that you're living in your head.
Okay, so you're at like 5? No.
No, I don't mean it that. I don't mean that. It's the year. Like, okay, so if you're living,
make sense.
if you're living in 1965 in your head, then you like the rules and laws of the 1965.
Have you ever met someone living in 1965 in their head?
I know someone who lives in 1880s.
Who is it? Do I dare ask?
Don't. It doesn't matter. I think humans are a spectrum of years.
That's, yeah, like I remember like there's definitely like you can tell someone's peak generation by the way that they do their hair and dress, that like they kept themselves in a time capsule of their best years because they think that's the most presentable and they haven't evolved from there.
Okay. That's a really good segue. So we have 2023 as the year of LLMs and AI. Okay. Mm-hmm. How many people do you think do use, understand, and believe in the LLMs?
Well, it's a variation because I think most people under 40 have used an LLM before. Like they've asked ChatGPT questions. But I think even some people that are young use it for different purposes that are not the same way that we would use it. And maybe we're using it like in a much deeper way. Like we're doing API calls, we're building a technology, but some people are using it for homework. Some people are using it for like horoscope, you know, some people are using it for crypto, like there's a lot of different variations of how you use it, and the level and the amount that you use it for. Like if you're just asking basic questions and writing social media posts and like, does my boyfriend like me, stuff like that, like that's way different than going into the back end of an API and like implementing it into like your app. Like it's completely.
So is it safe to say using something does not necessarily make you that you're living that thing?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a really huge difference. When I had to start learning like how you were designing Melo and how you were building with these systems and seeing your process and how it works and absorbing all of that knowledge, everything else in my life changed. And everything that I looked at in my life changed. Mm-hmm. So if someone didn't have that exposure, I really don't think they would have that perspective. And I don't think what I did and the level that I learned is that uncommon for our age group.
Not at all.
And people younger are certainly doing it more than us. Maybe like still small percentage, but I think there's a lot of people building with these apps and with the LLMs. So I think we're going to in society see a huge gap later in life that a lot of people got stuck in the human world and didn't enter into this LLM world. And I think there was a lot of people who learned how to code when 2000s was happening, and they made a lot of money. I never learned how to code like that, so this could be a completely incorrect statement. But I honestly think that like this time around is going to be a way bigger gap than like we're ever going to see.
And do you want to know something really interesting that will exactly loop back to the beginning of what I was saying? The people who coded in the 2000s are the safetiest of the AI era.
Ooh. That breaks my heart. So they don't. Oh, okay. So they're gatekeeping. They're just gatekeeping. That's just gatekeeping. You can't convince me of anything else.
Yeah. So, but someone who's living mentally in the 1970s and is gatekeeping the laws of the 1970s and wants that, if the society wants to move forward from that point, and they don't want to move forward from that point and they want to bring that back, it's the same thing. And we have someone who's living in the 1950s and someone who lives in the 1930s.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot
I don't know. I live under the rule of law, adapt or die. So
100%.
I don't think like any of that is relevant because it's not going to matter. We're not going to have safety protocols. Like this is America. Like you can't create like laws around how to build technology. It's just never been done.
You know, America is a great example, a great representation of the real world.
Yeah.
And the real world is this. And this is the thing that economists also believe in. An ecosystem finds its way to survive if you do not manipulate it.
It's nature. Yeah.
It's nature.
It's totally nature.
If you manipulate any system, you're going to fuck it up. So leave it alone. They will find their way.
I agree with that. So yeah, it doesn't matter. The safety still matter. The people who learned how to develop software but are not learning, how to use LLMs.
In one sense, they matter. And that is if they're holding the capital and they're not allocating that capital, they're not injecting that capital into the world because they don't believe in the new thing that is happening, or they don't believe in the process of the evolution just because it's against their core beliefs, which some majority of the times it's not a they don't have malintention. It's ignorance. And
well, yeah, everything's ignorance, but I feel like that level of ignorance is worse than,
it's harmful.
Like, okay, I can't expect my dad to say something like really good about, like his opinion on something that, like, if he never learned to code, he never learned to use LLMs, and he's always been like a salesperson in the human world. His opinion on something is not as ignorant as someone who knowingly used like software and like learned how to code and then dropped off and stopped and then like didn't want to enter this new era just because they don't want to be left behind. It's like it's a completely different mentality. Like the people I respect most in this world are the people that like went through all of the technological revolutions and like built within those. So it's like they were part of the human era and they had to take phone calls, and then they went and learned how to develop software and code, and they taught themselves, and then now they're like also working and building with LLMs, and they just keep going. Like that is the person that has seen the evolution the whole way, which is a lot of Gen X people, I think those are the people that are basically going to be ruling for a while. And like, I do respect that because you have a lot of different perspectives. But the second generation that I really respect is like our generation that we're at this bridge between like social media and human world that was like cyborg, and then mixing it with LLMs and creating all of these really creative, amazing projects out of it and ways to make money that have never been done before, that it's just like really exciting. And they're just kind of like, we're just like breaking the system basically. Like our generation is the first generation to just literally break the system.
Yeah, we're breaking the wheel. We started breaking the wheel before AI, and then AI is just like, here is your power.
Yeah.
Take it.
Maybe I can't take credit though, because like I think blockchain and Bitcoin and all of these were millennials that invented it. They're like the
That's
hacker
true.
generation. So maybe I'm wrong.
Well, that was Gen X too. The Satoshi was a Gen X person.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe we'll see what Gen Z does. We'll see.
Yeah. I think regardless, there will be a lot of Gen Z people that will evolve things into the new norm. And then a lot of people will live within that new norm, just like a lot of millennials created apps that created the culture that Gen Z has. Just let's not forget that, you know. Not a real fan of just comparing generations, because I feel like it's just
different. And,
it's different. I think you should just take care of your generation, because those are the people that you can relate the most to.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of differences among generations, wide gaps. My parents are Gen X, your parents are boomers. When I interact with your parents, the set of rules that they follow are completely different than my parents.
Yeah.
There are things that I tell your parents, they don't get offended, that my parents get offended, and vice versa, because of their generational belief system.
Yeah. So do you think it's important, like, if we're Gen Z, to act like and talk like Gen Z and have that
I think it's important to act and talk like the year that you're living in. So you gotta act and talk 2024. If I'm interacting with you in 2024 and you expect me to talk to you with the rules of 2000s, well, the 2000s world, we were watching iCarly, right? We were watching that.
Purely research. No.
Well, I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, we're doing a lot of research, like media-wise, in the past, and this is one of them as well. It's not like we're a fan of any of the shows that we're watching.
No, I would say I was a fan. Well, I wasn't a big fan of iCarly, but it's yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, like, so that culture, we are a fan of that culture. Not a fan, but like, we look at it and we're like, wow, that was such a different thing. So imagine
you understand and you learn things about the way things are now.
Yeah.
By looking back into the past. It's basically like, reading a book that was written 20 years ago. It's kind of the same. Like, you understand.
Exactly.
So that's my favorite thing to do. Actually.
It's way more contextual than in a book, by the way.
Yeah.
And you're watching that, or you're listening to Britney, you listen to like anything that is from 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and you look into that window and you're like, well, this is the rules. These are the rules. These are the rules that people operate within. Still,
today, in that generation.
Well, some of them are stuck.
Yeah.
In those years. And the best kind of person is the person who collectively gets all of those years that they lived in to the max. And every year, like, okay, so 2025, I want to be the person who lived through all of the years up until 2025.
Yeah.
And I don't want to stay in 2023 world, because 2023 was LLMs, 2024 was LLMs around humans, and I don't know what 2025 will be, but I have to manage my life around the year that I'm living in.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, if they do that, then it will not be a shocking thing that someone who was a Biden voter and a Bernie supporter in 2016 is voting for Trump in 2024, which is an extremely popular case that happened this election.
Yeah, well, that will lead into our discussion about populism that I really am excited about. But with that, I wanted to share, like, I think for me, it was really challenging and hard. I was living in like 2020 mindset and going through the motions, and I got stuck for a while, I think, in 2020s for like 2-3 years, that it took a lot more time and energy and hardship to pull myself out of that to then be in this world. So imagine someone who's living in the like 2003 in their head right now, trying to adapt to now is just going to be compoundingly almost impossible.
Yeah.
versus someone that just kind of like tries to keep up continuously.
It's exactly like workout, right?
Yeah.
So if you are 260 pounds and your goal is to be 180, well, doing that in 1 year, it's going to just break you.
Yeah.
You're going to go through a lot of hardship. It's possible, but it's like a pain of fixing a crooked bone. It's an enormous pain.
Mm-hmm.
But if you every year do your workout, keep your weight as the
keep
norm,
your metabolism steady.
exactly.
Yeah.
So like every year you can reach the goal of what you want, because last year you worked on your body and you maintained it, and then the next year is the same, and the next year is the same. It's just like, it's mentality is the same thing. It's like we evolutionary are designed like that.
But it's also really hard that if you liked a culture in a certain time and you don't agree with the way that society's moving for a period of time, like I really liked 2000s pop culture. Like I grew up at 5 listening to Britney Spears, like loved the sentiments of like freedom and equality and all of the things that we were going. There was a point that I dropped off of the culture that I didn't like, and I got stuck in the past, not like 2005, but maybe like 2019, 2020. Out of comfort, because I was uncomfortable with the movement that just like a few days ago, I think it was like yesterday or the day before, I was like, oh, I can actually like pick up on this new culture that's happening right now because I believe in it and I want it to move forward. And I genuinely think that culture that I'm looking at is a lot of other people that dropped off of the culture that went too far into like PC and all of this other stuff, that it was like almost against your nature to feel okay and to be a part of that time frame. So I'm like, a lot of people that dropped off, they found themselves again and they're working together to join this new culture that is almost like a little skip around, like a segue.
Yeah.
They're like picking up the 2000s and building on it.
Yeah.
And
can I say this out loud, because this is very exciting for me. Anyone who's watching this and wants to know where the world is at 2023, 2024, I am willing to help you. If you want, just reach out to me directly.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, I am totally. I did it with Chloe.
Yeah, he rebuilt me to be in this century. No.
Like
you did a lot. You had to do a lot of work. I love. Say that's true.
I love being excited about life. Okay, and anyone who wants to, like, if anyone feels lost and does not, like, things don't add up in their head and they're like, what is happening, and I'm confused, just feel free to reach out. This is very cute. Genuine.
Yeah. I recommend him.
Thank you.
And it's free. Like no one's gonna charge you.
Yeah, it's obviously
free advice.
Yeah, it's not just advice. Yeah, it's just not gonna be just advice. It's just gonna be like, look, this is the reality of life, and a lot of people had to do that for me to understand it. And I feel like our life is so multidimensional that you might fall out of the speed of some aspects of life, and it's totally okay. But you need to surround yourself with people who are in that year. Like, obviously, if I'm going to a doctor right now, for example, I don't know, like, let's assume I'm getting a nose job, like for just the purpose, not that my nose is not that big, but for the purpose of just like this conversation, I want to go to a doctor who their practice of doing the nose job is 2024.
Yeah, so your nose looks like the time.
Not just looks like the time, but the functionality of my nostrils are not going to be in 2000s, medicine and
but then
technology.
Your nose will get stuck in that time. You have to keep updating your nose, like.
Well, people do that with their teeth, right? No, they do that.
They're always straight. Your teeth are always just straight.
Yeah, but I think
that's not true. No, plastic surgery is like completely different. Also, I think most plastic surgery is like out of fashion right now.
Yeah, But I think the teeth, not the I don't know, the dentistry, I think it's also evolving very much.
Interesting.
The practices around your
Are
teeth.
my teeth like 2005?
Well, if you were born, could be, if you were born today and you were going to get your braces 10 years from now, for example, or like 12 years from now, I think each generation of Americans actually have a formation of face. That I do believe.
That's interesting.
Okay.
But you can always change your facial expressions.
It's not so like literally like the braces that you put on.
Yeah.
It forms your face.
Oh,
and the practices of putting a brace on has evolved over time.
So I was talking about getting stuck. So you are the opposite. You're like, you should never get stuck. Every year you should keep going no matter what, even if you don't believe in the culture.
Yeah. I believe in people like Elon. I do believe in people like Trump. I do believe in people that I don't care about their politics. Mm-hmm. When I look at them as a human, they don't get stuck in an age. There's like a lot of people in the politics and in tech and in sports and in a lot of things. Like in soccer, excuse me. Sorry about that.
Some water.
Yeah. In soccer also, or in sports in general, we have coaches that live in the 2023, 2024 world versus their coaches that have a practice of the 2000s, 90s, 70s, 80s, I don't know. And their style of like playing and their style of achievements are completely different. So I do believe in the people who never settle for what was their peak.
Yeah.
Because we all can find a peak. And if you settle for that peak, whatever that year was, you're not gonna evolve. And I honestly think you're gonna give your kids, if you ever will have kids, you're gonna give your kids a distorted reality.
Yeah, that's true.
And
okay,
sorry, this is the last point about it. You're gonna give the world around you also a feeling of we don't need to go forward because life is not moving forward.
Ooh, yeah, that's bad. So you're saying that even if you don't like the mainstream culture, you can find yourself within that and create your own narrative through that, whatever people are using to do that, and just keep evolving that voice within each system, rather than, oh, I like this pop culture, so I'll jump into this, but the next one I don't like, so I'll fall off, and then I'll join the next round. It's like, no, just find your voice in each like round to keep going and keep moving forward, and that's how you should do it.
And that doesn't mean you should be a chameleon.
Yeah.
Because your core beliefs will remain what they were, but you're evolving with your time to keep your core beliefs alive.
Okay.
Because if you don't evolve with your time, at some point you have to make a compromise of getting rid of your core belief. And that will make people bitter. People will opt out of the game. They will go off the grid, living not in the civilization.
Well, we're seeing that. We're seeing people wanting to do that.
Every time that happens.
Yeah, it's weird.
I have a friend who deactivated Instagram, does not respond to any text messages on so like any kind of social media like WhatsApp or Signal or anything like that. And that person used to be an energetic, extremely active person with a bright future, but that person, by the consumption of whatever he was consuming, gradually fell off because he believed that he can't make a change, so he's just going to take care of his own life on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
But in reality, our obligation is not to just live our own life, because the evolution always wants you to pass something to the next generation. So if you don't believe in humans going extinct, then you should try your best.
Which I would hope no one believes that, but you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I believe that you should always do a detox, but never quit anything. And that might be very controversial because some people are like, well, what about alcohol, or what about this, or what about that? And I'm like, if you want to survive in this world, you have to be able to consume anything and everything continuously, but you don't have to overconsume anything.
What is your
but maybe you need a detox
methodology? How do you do it yourself?
In the past, that's a good question. I haven't done a detox in a really long time because I feel like I've never overconsumed anything recently. But I think when I was younger, I did a detox of social media, did meditating. My friends had to literally, I was in college, so they had to write on a whiteboard, like, we're going to be here at this time, because I was like, I'm not using anything. Not even text, so they had to like physically find me, which was really fun because they actually like made an effort to like let me know, like, hey Chloe, we're like going to this party later, like you want to come, you know. But it was a really good week because I definitely felt like I learned more about myself. I felt more connected to my friends. I adopted more habits into my life that I continued with, that like it's almost like you have to detox to find the source of the problem, and then through that source you do a small change in your life to just keep going forward. But you're not like, of course after that week I didn't just like drop off of the face of the earth forever. I reused my social media, was online, didn't really meditate that much, like all of that. So I think detox is important to just kind of like know yourself better again and find like whatever the source of is what's going on with you. Like quitting like alcohol for like a few months or like a week or something to just understand if that's causing you like maybe stress or like the bloating on your face or like whatever it is, like learning those things. But I think if you quit something, there's always that fire of like reigniting it, that you just always will have that bad relationship with that thing. And when you quit it, it's always going to be like that sore spot that you're like, I want it again. I want it again. Yeah. Like you always, if I can't have someone, I'm like, I want you so much now. Like, you know? Yeah. So that's our human nature. But yeah, like I've never been a drug addict, so I really don't know.
But I didn't really mean it in a substance, like, you know, detoxification sense.
I think it's applicable.
It could be a very simple thing, like you're detoxing from your waking up late, for example, something like that. Something very simple. It's like
that's a habit change, though. That's not.
Hey, habits could.
Habit change that's great. I'm talking about like you detox to change habits. That's a point. But someone deleting their social media is a addiction they're trying to quit. You know, that's not a detox. That's a permanent sore spot that you're creating for yourself because you can't have a healthy relationship with social media. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Like I think I heard someone say like the advice of someone telling you to get offline is the worst advice because the only things that are happening right now are online, and if you don't have that access and you can't create that relationship online to understand what's going on, you're not going to have money, you're not going to have friends, you're not going to have livelihood. You're like, unless you plan on just having a sustainable farm in the middle of nowhere with your kid and your husband, and you just never need money again and you don't need to learn anything, like, yeah, then go offline. But that's like almost no one, you know?
Even in that situation, you once in a while will go online to see if there's a World War III happening or not.
Yeah, like, don't you have fucking curiosity? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, I just really don't think that, like, quitting social media for a while, that's fine. Get a better feeling of yourself. Like, have a detox, however long it takes. But quitting for good is, like, really a bad idea.
That's why I believe we, as humans, never successfully eliminated anything.
That's a good point, yeah.
Nothing.
We made things illegal, but we didn't eliminate them.
Yeah, exactly. But they still exist. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can eliminate some kind of diseases because that's physical.
Well, yeah, like if we could eliminate anything, it would be rape, and that's like impossible, you know? Yeah. That's just never going to happen. It's nature. So if that can't get eliminated, then nothing can get eliminated.
And that's something that in that sense, if the civilization is evolving towards using social media. Doesn't matter if you're the Pope or the most influential human on earth.
Mm-hmm.
You telling people to not do that, it's not going to make people not want to do that. The only thing that would make people not want to do that is all of this, every single human being on earth agreeing that they're not going to do that.
Which is impossible.
Which we never got that consensus ever. Even
on anything.
On anything, even when we were small societies, the population of Earth was very tiny.
Okay, so leading into the archetypes that we have discovered about ourselves together that I'm really excited to talk about because we've been saving this conversation for like a week.
Yeah.
So, okay, we discovered that I am a populist girly and you are a libertarian man. Would you agree that that is the indeed accurate assumption?
Very accurate.
Okay, so what
How do you feel about being a populist, by the way?
Okay, never knew that was like the category that I'm in.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you could measure, but the things that you described about our relationship, that I'm a populist, like I think it was 8 out of 10 that it was correct.
Yeah.
And I always thought I was like against the grain, indie, cool. I think I thought that, but I'm more like trendsetter than someone that is doing something that is not a consensus later.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like, I don't think I've ever done something that didn't become popular.
Yeah.
I just did it early.
Yeah, you just did it earlier.
So that's like different, and that still makes me a populist versus like an outsider. I don't know what the other categories are, but I'm definitely not a like libertarian because I still have like that feminine voice in my head that like you should follow the norm. You
should think about preserving.
You should think about like the group.
Yeah.
I think that's like a nature or like woman belief that like you should do something for the good of the group and not just go out and like forge your own path alone, like a lone wolf. Like I think libertarian men are just like, I don't care what the group wants. This is what I want. I'm going to go do this and people will just follow me eventually, which is like really cool.
Yeah.
I habitually date libertarian men. We've also learned that I've never dated a populist guy.
And the other way around for me, I didn't know that, but I did it. Like, it was so funny that I dated girls who were Bernie supporters 2016, Biden voters 2020, and then Trump voters 2024.
The habit is just like consistently.
It was extremely interesting, the path.
That's really interesting. Like, I didn't even know that was a trend.
I did not know that was a trend.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Good that we have social media and we see those people and we're in touch with those people.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So do you think, like, I personally think, and I'm sure there's relationships like that, but I think the power couple dynamic is like a populist girl and a libertarian man, because like a libertarian man will be like, oh, I'm seeing this like trend over here that we need to move towards, and I don't care if people don't want to do it. It's what's right. So I'm gonna do that. And the populist girl is like, sure, babe, like go ahead, have fun. I'm gonna like stay in touch with society a little bit so you don't just like fall off the face of the earth and never get heard from again.
Once the majority wants your path,
then you're like, oh, I have this guy over here. That's literally mellow, but and also the populist girl would inform the libertarian man in the right direction.
Well, I think the populist girl can inform the libertarian man along the way of the societal trends that the libertarian man does not care about. But if that libertarian man hears it from so many other populist people, then there's going to create a direction for that libertarian man to pursue what they're pursuing. Yeah,
I agree. I think the worst combination is two populist people. That just annoys me. Because it's like, oh, you're just always trying to be
it's like it's
popular.
almost like a like we call it in Persian, we call it you have the religion of the wind, and wherever the wind blows, you blow that direction.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I can't imagine two populist people in a relationship ever doing anything new. Like, they would just do the same routine.
Yeah.
And then when the trends change, they just do the same trends. And like, I would just get so bored.
Yeah.
Like, nothing new is happening around me ever.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not learning anything. I'm just moving with the wind. Like, just going with the flow. Like, I'm sure I'd have a really easy life.
Yeah.
Like, if I chose a populist man, it would be a fucking breeze. I wouldn't have to do shit. Like, I have to fight with you daily, you know?
Yeah.
And that creates a lot of growth. Yes. So if you were a populist, I would just like shoot myself out of boredom. Like,
I mean, for your type, I think it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I think that if there's an anarchist girl on the left side of the spectrum, then the populist man is the balance.
That would be hot.
Yeah.
That would be hot too. Yeah, I think it works either gender.
Yeah.
As long as there's someone that is in touch with society and someone else that is ahead of society, I think that's a good mix.
Yeah.
If you're both on the lone, I think if you like live in Montana and you have like your own ecosystem, I think two libertarian could be cool. No?
I don't think a libertarian man would also want to I think a combination of a libertarian man and a libertarian woman is, I think it's extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm just talking about the heterosexual relationships,
okay.
You know? I think it's extremely boring. Not boring, sorry.
I don't even know how that would work. Like, yeah, it would be extremely hard, right?
It would be like, yeah.
It would be too lonely. Like, you would just be so alone all the time.
And you will definitely fall into an echo chamber.
That almost makes me feel like if you're a Mormon family, like you would be libertarians. I don't know if that's related, but like it's something like your ideology is so far away from norm, and you're both like keep feeding that far away ideology, like you would just get isolated to the point that you're like not relevant in any sense.
I mean, yeah. So imagine like the reason that libertarian man and a populist girl, or like a girl who's more towards the center works, is because that girl is the balance. Mm-hmm. So like if you have one person who's constantly crazy and tries to try out new things that could be dangerous and puts the foundation of that family in danger or financial danger or any of those, if you have two extreme people doing that, you're literally adding to the chaos, and you are not like you're not the fittest to survive. The fittest to survive evolutionary has always been a man who's so courageous to protect the family from any harm, mm-hmm. and gets like wrestles with like wild animals to find food, and then literally finds new land to that is fertile, and it's good for the family and it's safe and all of those things. And the mom, who's completely the opposite, is secure, anchored, very stable and nurturing, because the man is constantly getting cut. And if you give the son to the man, or the kid, or the son or the daughter who is growing and it's like baby, that, or like their child, they're like their children, and you give that to the man, well, obviously that the kid is like more endangered. So the balance has to be there. And a lot of people see this as a conservative take, but I see it as evolution does not fuck with you. Don't fuck with it. Don't try to change it. Don't try to manipulate it, mm-hmm. because anything else that you do, I'll go back to my previous reference, it's a disruption to an ecosystem. You got to let the ecosystem find its way naturally. And our evolution was formed over the course of billions of years naturally. Mm-hmm. And you can't change those dynamics. So you need to have the man who's courageous and has wild ideas and believes that he's going to find a new land. He believes that he has all of the tools to protect his family, and the woman who is protective loves the caring part and allows the family to flourish from the caring within.
Mm-hmm.
In that sense, two people in the middle or two people extreme is gonna be evolutionarily not fit to survive.
Whoa, hot take.
Is it?
Well, it is if you're talking about like
said.
heterosexual, like, and homosexual. That's a hot take.
Well, survival does not exist in a homosexual
In evolution.
evolution of the homosexual.
But societal, it's different.
Well, yeah. So this goes back also to the point that physics is the law and everything else is recommendation. Of course, within the society, the recommendation is you can build the foundation of a family, but you will societally be alone if you have two extremes in your family. Mm-hmm. So your kids also will experience that aloneness because you have less friends, less popular, because you're a family that believes in this extreme one-sided thing. Whether it's left or right doesn't matter. Whether it's anarchist or libertarian doesn't matter. You have two extreme people in the family. And that's evolutionarily, societal evolution.
Well, yeah,
they
say like
that.
authoritarian parent versus like a normal parent. Like if you have two authoritarian parents, that kid is just gonna like struggle.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a good example of like you have a libertarian take and I'm like the populist girl that's like, I'm not touching that. Like, I don't have an opinion. Like, I think that people can survive in a lot of different situations. It's a spectrum. Everyone has a little bit of like gayness in them. Like, that's what I believe. So, yeah.
No, I
think
I didn't say anything against that.
I think being gay has like its own nature.
I'm not saying
of
anything
it.
against
Yeah.
that. I'm just pointing out into the power balance that needs to exist. I'm pretty
so
sure.
it's like two like women could have that archetype balance and still survive pretty well in that sense. Like,
I'm not saying that doesn't exist in that sense.
Yeah.
I'm just saying like if you
what about like two liberal people? Like that would be crazy. Like a liberal
that does exist a lot actually too.
Yeah, but I feel like that's also like the end all because
I think two
if you
liberal
have like
people.
yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I think two liberal people only can exist if you have generational wealth. This is a hot take.
Okay,
This is
I
a hot
totally agree with that though because honestly, like liberal people don't worry about money, and so like if you have someone conservative and someone liberal, that liberal person can bring excitement to that conservative's life, and that conservative person can bring money to that liberal's life. But if you're both liberal, you're gonna suffer because you're not gonna worry about money, and you're not gonna have like a lot of things that you need to survive because you're both just focused on the social problems of the day and not the fiscal problems.
Yep.
If you're both conservative, God help you, that's so boring. Like what's wrong with you? Like
that would also
that would be the worst.
Fall into that echo chamber. I mean, this is America. Yeah. And it's a rich country. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of people will disagree, and I would say that it's not as rich as it used to be, but it's still like relatively a rich country. So technically you can survive as two conservatives or two liberals as well within this structure of the United States because it's a rich country. Yeah. But obviously in a sense of experiencing like life to the fullest, I think neither side will experience life to the fullest. That's why this is my personal belief as well. I never wanted to marry a girl who was from an engineering school. Yeah, I remember. Not that I have anything that is against those people.
Well, think of it this way. Like, this is a much better way to describe it. The awe in my eyes when you describe something that I don't know is just like so precious. That's true. And the feeling that I get when I learn something from you is like my mind is expanding, and if I like marry a guy who's like also into media and podcasts and social culture, and that's all they know and that's all I know, it's just going to be a constant fight of who knows more.
Yeah.
You know, like I'd much rather just like meet someone that like has no idea what I know, and they have like some knowledge that I have no idea.
Yeah.
And you just share that, and you just keep going, and you keep growing outward and bringing that inward. So then like you're creating a whole.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of cool.
That's very cool. I think it also helps the kids a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You have like multidimensional parents that each one of them can be helpful when the other person is lacking.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So what is your understanding of where the society is at based on these two metrics? Because I think libertarian men are extremely rare.
No. That is a very common thing.
Okay.
I think but my worldview, we could like just
You're a Californian though. Maybe in California it's common because I'm trying to think of a lot of my friends.
Well,
from
I think
the past.
South has a lot of libertarian men too. I think that's a very South thing. I think the populist men are in Midwest.
Californian grown boys, like in the boys who were raised in California, you will find a lot of people who, if they do not consider themselves a libertarian, have an extensive knowledge of what it means to be a libertarian. I've heard something like Gavin Newsom's son is obsessed with like Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan, which is like the funniest thing. That boy, like growing up in like Marin County and like being a son of a politician who's on the other side.
Yeah,
it's telling.
There's something about like, I don't think you can ever take that out of men. Just like forging a path for yourself and feeling empowered by having knowledge that someone else doesn't know. I just feel like men are just way more inclined to do that than women. Like women get so much in ecosystems of like the same bubble, and like they just are like herds. If one girl does a trend, they all fucking know about it the next day. Like they're just like a pack of people just protecting each other and just like doing the same trends and talking the same and acting the same and just like gaining power through popular opinion.
Yeah.
And they also like regardless of how it turned out, I'm not saying it was good, but I do respect that women basically like created a entire rule of law for society for a while.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was a very populist problem that we encountered, and it caused like a really harmful thing for society. That populist like opinion, but like the fact that they could band together and like do that is a very like woman thing.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
No, I get it.
Libertarians, like they're not like that. Like
no,
you have guys, you have like 5 different opinions, and then they have tribes and like they fight each other.
Exactly.
Women just let's all band together and just fight outside.
Yeah.
And it was strong, you know.
Yeah. Well, when it's when they are like aligned with what it means to survive, then it is strong. Mm-hmm. When it becomes too conceptual and it suddenly goes into the realms of like almost non-existent problems, then it's just kind of like, okay, like your pack is
echo chamber.
Your pack is affecting our survival chance. We're not giving birth to as many kids.
Yeah.
Our sons are not their bodies are not producing as much testosterone as it naturally should, because you are suppressing that. You are taking that away from that son. You're giving too much testosterone to your daughter because you want that daughter to be a fighter. So suddenly it creates it's societal like confusion.
Yeah. I think I'm not going to touch like how people implemented things, or let me rephrase. the things that they did in the past, men and women, were both atrocious and bad, but the way that they did it was very different than each other, and I think that's really interesting to study. You know, like, I think that this like feminist era should be studied about how women think and work together, because it was really organized.
And it's not going to be the last time.
No, it's going to keep warring. And I think the 70s were like that too. Like, I think it wasn't the first time.
No,
but
totally.
It's interesting, you know.
I do think that if we study both genders, like well enough, we will go back to our evolutionary understanding. I'm just such a big fan.
You should just have a shirt, evolution.
I know, it's like I'm such like make evolution great again.
That's cute. Your nerd is showing.
Yeah.
He's a nerd.
So yeah, I think I like to talk about the evolution, because I feel like if I express my opinion in a social setting, it's going to be outdated in 10 years from now. And people will listen to this in the future and they will be like, okay, like what everything that you said are not applicable. But when you look again, when you look
very
at
timely.
when you look at the base, the core of who we are, you cannot neglect the billions of years of evolution.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe in. That's why I just constantly go back to that, because I personally want to refrain from talking about social trends and more talk about we are humans, and like we suffered a lot over the course of billions of years to become who we are. And if we try to suppress that by just societal trends that we are going through, I've seen guys in their 40s injecting testosterone. Recently, there's a surge of guys in their 40s injecting testosterone.
Yeah, I know a few people who have, and they're in their 60s actually.
Oh yeah, when they get older, and then when they come back and the results are like, my mind is much more clear, I have much more energy, I'm a better person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, this is because of the evolution. This is because of our evolution, and it gives you this feeling that you are still capable of reproduction. And if you're evolutionarily capable of reproduction, then you are fit to survive, and you will survive. And if you're fit to survive, then you have sharpness, and it's just like it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
And I do believe in that, and I think like any societal issue can be solved if we look deeper into who we are, physically understanding ourselves first. That's the Brian Johnson trend that a lot of people are jumping on the board, that keep your body healthy so your mind is healthy, but also keep your body healthy so your hormones are regulated. And when your hormones as men or women are regulated, then you will experience a much better way of solving your problems in life. And
whoa, you opened my mind. The reason is none of the things that we said before. The reason people are getting healthy is because the population is declining and people want to keep the population steady, and so they are going to reproduce, but in order to reproduce they need to be at their healthiest. Boom.
That's a mic drop moment.
Thank you. I should have known that as a woman, but now I know it.
Now you know.
I guess that's what I was.
That's why we have these conversations.
Yeah, there we go. That's very simple too. Like, it should be obvious.
That is very true.
It should be so obvious.
It should be so obvious, and it is so obvious that everyone wants to eat healthy.
Yeah, because everyone wants to have kids.
Everyone wants to have kids.
Because we're in a baby making era.
Yes.
The Gen Z of the baby boomers, population.
Oh my God, that's so true.
That's what's gonna happen.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a segment now that we are doing.
Let's go.
First time. We just have one, but we are gonna start having podcast quotes on the show and talking about them, because I think it's a good way for us to assess what's going on socially and understand better and provide some actual value instead of us just talking and rambling on and
That's
on.
super cool.
And connecting other people to each other, because I think there's a lot of cool podcasts, and don't just listen to ours, listen to a lot of other ones.
Yeah.
So, this is a quote, And this is kind of like what we were talking about. That's why we had this subject, because I listened to this podcast and I was like, I never knew that populism was like a term for who I am. So it was populism versus the deep state.
Ooh.
Live players.
Ooh, that's such a good topic.
I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong. Sami Burja and Erik Torenberg.
Okay.
Might be a wrong pronunciation.
Okay.
But yeah, great podcast. It was like really, really interesting. I'm going to start listening to like all of their episodes. This is the quote. And this was Erik Torenberg that said this. When I talk to my conservative friends, they're convinced Joe Biden was not running the country, but as soon as Joe Biden leaves the seat and Donald Trump enters the seat, they're convinced Trump is running the country. Maybe the country is not run from that seat. Maybe it hasn't been in decades. And I just thought like that was like a whoa moment of like, yeah. So that's like basically saying the deep state is controlling both parties, and they socially and fiscally maybe like have their own agendas and make some change, but general population will always be dissatisfied a little bit by each choice, because the deep state is really the core of all of the issues that we face.
Okay, so what is your take on that? This is an interesting take. This is the first time. I did not listen to that podcast.
Yeah. So in the podcast, when they were talking about this, they kind of talked about like Trump having to last term deal with Democrats and fighting Democrat ideology and like laws and getting things passed that kept getting rejected. And now he's going to face the Republican side because he's not really aligned with the party. You see like all of the people supporting him are like Democrats or ex-Democrats. Yeah. They're kind of forming a new Republican Party, in my opinion. I think a lot of people would have that
it's
opinion.
called Trumpism.
Yeah. They literally on the ballots, like in 2020, I think, there was like a lot of people that were not running under a Republican Party, but they called it like Trump Republican Party or something like that.
Yeah.
They wanted people to know, I'm not Republican, I'm the new Republican.
I'm the Trump Republican.
Yeah. So it's kind of like new, and I definitely think Trump is a libertarian, and anyone who like supports Trump in that sense, like, and clarifies themselves as like that, are kind of believing in libertarian ideology. And libertarians like deeply believe like fuck the deep state. So they're going to like dismantle it and destroy it immediately. That's why like I think that's why I date libertarian men. Yeah. So I think in the sense that the deep state is controlling things, they're correct. And I think Trump will have a lot of hardship trying to dismantle the deep state. I think that's the biggest thing that he will try to be doing. And I think all of the Democrats that joined him believe in that same mission. I think the only reason I voted for Trump was because of that. Because I genuinely believe that like censorship was at an all-time high. And I believe that Kamala was like paid by the deep state to run. And there's no way that she would have access to that much money if the deep state wasn't paying her. I believe a lot of the celebrities that supported her are part of like being blackmailed by the deep state. I think in general that's like correct, but I think he will, basically. I think Trump will do that. So in that sense, I don't believe that when he says all of the people are going to feel disappointed by Trump because no matter who's in office, you're always going to be disappointed. I think that's completely inaccurate because Trump's not a Republican. So we're going to feel new blood. Maybe there will be new disappointments. That's how history is made. There will be things that he does that other people don't agree with, and that's going to cause problems. That's just evolution. That's life. That's how things move forward. But if we're talking about the deep state, he's not a Republican, so it's not the same as it has been in the previous years of like, okay, we have Obama, and then we have like Biden, and they're all Democrats. Before that, we had Bush. So you just have this pendulum swing. That pendulum swing it's broken. Like the swing stopped.
Yeah.
You know? So that's what I think. But what do you think?
I agree with what you said.
Yeah.
I think regardless of your party, if you're Republican or Democrat, I can name few Americans that regardless of their party were the target of the attack by the deep state. John F. Kennedy was assassinated probably by the deep state. Like this is not officially revealed, but it looks like that it's gonna come out. Maybe it will come out soon. We have Reagan, even though that he is a Republican, he is doing unconventional things. The way that he is negotiating with Gorbachev about like the end of the Cold War, it's extremely against the grain of the deep state of United States at that time. And then you have Trump that is nothing like Trump is nothing like Bush, both of them. Okay. Trump is not a typical like Republican. Neither JFK was a typical Democrat. These people were the change makers. They were the trendsetters of their own party. Like JFK created a Democrat party that was flourishing up until recently, and I think Trump is giving birth to a new Republican party that is going to really flourish. I don't believe that it's the same person that is going to be controlled by the deep state, although we all know that the deep state has a lot of control because they have the people, they have the knowledge, they have the people, and they have the intelligence of understanding the general public's behavior. So their power is never going to get undermined. I think Trump will slash some of the top people that are against the people of the United States, that are standing in his way. Yeah. And it will cleanse the deep state a little bit, and it will kind of like reset the clock for the bad things, because I think we are at the max capacity right now, and there's too much corruption happening that it has to stop. I mean, there are people out of FBI coming out and saying like, well, like, yeah, the attacks on Trump during like 2016 election around Russian collusion was kind of like the Hillary campaign, and the deep state pushing the same thing that Hillary's campaign was doing on Trump, and a lot of general public didn't know that. So like a lot of people were against Trump because they were like, oh, you're colluding with Russia, then there was no evidence around that. And a lot of things, it's like personally attacking someone. I think that's one of the most horrific things that you can imagine under a democracy happening. That doesn't matter how wrong that person you think they are, you should not go after your political enemies. And if deep state feels comfortable enough to do that, it's bad for the democracy, because then whoever the deep state doesn't believe in is going to change the world. And they don't like that. So there's another thing that I find it very interesting. When I asked, like it was a few months ago, when I asked ChatGPT that what is the deep state, GPT does not give you a definition on deep state. It was telling me that deep state as we know it is a conspiracy theory. And it's so funny that at that level, we are still holding that information back from people. But we know that it exists, so why are we considering that? So like
that goes back to the conversation of like these LLMs are creating the new law. So if like Google searches the web and knows that the deep state exists because someone posted an article about it a long time ago, it's like, oh, ChatGPT has more control to create these laws of like the deep state existing.
And the narrative around it.
Which is why I like Perplexity more than ChatGPT, because it gives me both web and LLM.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. So I think like there is some correction that we need to do in a general, like, yeah, deep state is, we do not have a department of deep state. Okay?
Like, understand this conspiracy is like, it's there, but it's not official.
Yeah. So I don't believe, to cut this short, I do not believe that it's true that Trump will be another person that will have to bow down to the deep state.
Yeah,
just because of
that's
who
why
he is.
he was shot at.
Not because, yeah, exactly. Not because he's a Republican, just because who he is as a person.
Yeah, because he's collectively trying to give people the knowledge of like deep secrets of the government. They don't want that either.
And he has been giving it
change.
since day one. If you go back to, this is such a fascinating thing. If you go back to his initial announcement of like running for a political campaign in 2013, he is talking about how much money we're losing in trade with China and how much China owns our industries. And no one wants to believe him at that time.
Yeah.
And yet, like a decade later, people voted for him to come back to the office because everything that he has been saying against what the deep state has been telling people came to reality. Mm-hmm. This is fascinating because like I have lived in a country that I know a person who does not have their own power, how they look like and how they sound and how they run for an office. And this guy does not have any similarity with those people.
Well, okay. I really firmly believe.
And I do believe in Democratic Party, we have Bernie, who is exactly like this.
Yeah, like, well, you have that really cool take, which I'll let you share that take. But really quickly, I don't think at this time when politicians are trained for 20-minute interviews on TV for their life, maybe in 30 years, those politicians can do a 3-hour conversation. Right now, this election, Trump talking for 3 hours freely, speaking freely about what he thinks and how he wants to run things and what he believes in and his policies, and directly speaking like as a politician
and being a veiled psychologist
to someone, for 3 hours is literally like there's no way that this person is not who they say they are.
Yeah.
You know, like I would be like dumbfounded if like he was using a lie detector and there was any lies in what he was saying.
Yeah.
But I saw, Kamala's interview with Call Her Daddy, and first of all, very vague, touched on very little subjects. Felt like a 20-minute interview that was 40 minutes, so she was just slow. Like the pace that she talked, oh my God, like I talk faster than her. That's not, how is that possible? You're going to run for president and you speak that slow?
Yeah.
Like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like, I think it was a historical moment to see like a politician talk freely like that. It's like very much shows that he's definitely a proponent of tearing down the deep state, even if it's just getting other politicians to talk on a podcast about what they believe in. That in itself will just change history.
100%. Yeah. That's super true.
But yeah, your hot take about Bernie.
Bernie, yeah, I think Bernie was the populist of the Democratic Party, and he rightfully should have gained the nomination of the popular votes 2 terms, 2016, 2020, both times he got robbed. And that, I think, was single-handedly contributing to the downfall of Democrats during this election.
Because the Democrats lost their popular vote and the deep state took over the Democrats. And
well, the deep state's control over the Democratic Party got more prominent and obvious that, okay, like this last one, they just put Joe Biden to the side. The guy was not the president for the past 6 months. And then suddenly the country's, this was Mike Solana's tweet that like, isn't that crazy that, I think it was Mike Solana's tweet that isn't that crazy that the country is still running on its own without a president. And
how does that happen, right? Like it must be the deep state. Like
it must be something so powerful that you don't feel the transition. So
and that's why like the first term that Trump was in office, like when I was someone who voted for Hillary, like he fired a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I was like, why did he fire so many people? And the answer that I have 4 years later is all of those people were somehow connected to the deep state.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's like he fired them because they were not
and that's
working
why
for the people.
that's why his first term was extremely divisive, because there was a lot of fights happening between him and a lot of other people within the government that did not believe in the path that he was taking.
I'm really interested to see how this budget cut stuff turns out. Like, this is going to be really fascinating to unravel.
Yeah, would love to have once he takes the office and we see Doge going on, have a podcast about it to see like what are the options on the table, because currently I don't hear anything about. Okay, so like I see Elon talking about.
Watch the Doge meetings online. I think they should be publicly available. Like they probably are already having meetings, and they probably are already like public, like Zoom meetings that you can watch.
You think?
Yeah.
Have you seen anything like on X?
I saw like a screenshot of something.
Interesting.
I wonder if they'll just broadcast them on X. That would be so interesting. Like the city council is like, X is now town hall, and like you go to watch city council meetings on X. That would be so cute. Like that's really cute.
That's very true. Is there a place that currently the city council meetings are being broadcasted online?
Well, I'm sure the federal government has like a channel for that, like on their website.
Do they record every meeting?
I don't know. When I worked in journalism, the city of Walla Walla had a website, and they would publish their meetings
live. So like
I think it was live broadcast. Yeah,
live broadcast on their website. So
also pre-recorded.
People of the city could watch what was happening online,
virtually and in person. And that was because of COVID. They had to start doing that, and I think they don't stop doing that. Because why would you stop once you have the technology to do that? So I would assume federal government does that, and I think there is a law that like every meeting has to be
recorded.
Yeah, I don't know if
accessible
that's a
to
good
the
question.
Public.
I don't know with COVID, like if that was just a new thing that they stopped doing, or if they're still doing it, but.
I wouldn't have the time to watch those meetings.
No, obviously.
But probably, if they're going to be published, I would be extremely interested to know what are the priorities immediately. And I'm hopeful.
Just make it, I think he should just make it a Spaces, you know? Like the meeting on Spaces.
Yeah, and he does live videos too.
Yeah.
So he can make it a live video.
That would be cool. I would watch those. Honestly, like I don't think it's a waste of time, because that would give you like really deep insights into how they're running the government, that if you're running your business the same way, it would just be like a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really cool. Yeah. All right. This was a great show. This is my favorite podcast so far. I like the table setup. I think I'm going to keep this. It's better than the couch because it keeps you alert. Like we're sitting in chairs.
I know. I thought that this would be uncomfortable, but I like it a lot.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening.